Well, I hope everyone's doing good and staying active and not going crazy, because I'm going crazy at home. Happy hand washing, everybody. So last year I was having a small crisis. So it was Father's Day, and Father's Day historically for me is like my least favorite day out of the whole year. I hate it. But last year I had this moment where I actually took the time to think about it and try to make something out of it. So my dad's not around, hasn't been for a while. So I was sitting in St. Brendan's and I was just complaining. I was sitting in the pew and I was literally like, wow, God, my life sucks. And like on Father's Day, you know, like everyone goes out with their dads, and everywhere you go, there's like kids doing stuff with their dads, and it's super cute, and they like buy him presents, and they go do something really aesthetic, and then they post about it, and I'm like scrolling through Instagram just like super mad and super jealous of everyone, and it just sucks. So I was sitting in St. Brendan's and I was like, why would you do this to me? Like, what? I don't deserve a dad? Am I just like, am I too good for one? Like, I don't know. I couldn't figure it out, and I was really upset. So then I started like making this like idea of what like a perfect dad would be. I was like, okay, well, if I had a dad, what would he be like? Like if I could build myself a dad in my imagination, which is what I'm doing right now, what would he be like, right? So I thought of a lot of things. I was like, well, my dad would play basketball with me all the time, and like throw a football with me. Like all the things I make my little sister do with me, he would do them with me, and he would love it. Like we would bond so much over that. I would be so sporty and it would be great. Yeah, he would like, if I was ever upset, like my mom always wants to talk about things like moms do, but like I hate talking about things. But like my dad, he would like come into my room and know that I was upset, and like we wouldn't have to talk about it. He would just like throw a football, like we would just go outside, go do something really fun, but like not talk about it, and like that, he would just be there for me, and I would feel like safe, and I would feel loved, and like it would just be so great. So I went through this like whole list of things that I would do with my dad, and it was great. And it probably didn't help that much because I was feeling even more upset, and I was like, wow, that's never gonna happen. Like at this point, I'm never really gonna have a dad, and that sucks. And I kept thinking about my wedding day, just cause like, you know, everyone's dad walks me down the aisle, and I was like, who's gonna walk me down the aisle? And I couldn't think of anyone, and I was like, wow, that sucks. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? When I play basketball, it's like not always me and my sister. Like other people play basketball with me. And like I've thrown a football with someone else, and I started thinking about all these things that I've done with other people, specifically like other guys. Like I started making this list of men that had this impact on my life, and I thought about the people who really, really did something, like not just like one time thing, but like people who were really there for me. And I came up with a list of 5 men, and it was crazy because I was thinking about it, and they've done things for me like any dad would. Like one of them, I worked at this Chick-fil-A for 2 years, and he was a manager there, and like he was just a manager. Like he didn't have to do anything for me really. I worked mornings, so it was just a bunch of men really, and me and my sister. And he noticed, you know, like that it was just me and my siblings and my mom at home. And all the time he would always tell me like, I want to be there for you. Like if you ever need anything, you can call me, you can ask me. And at first I was like really scared to do that. I was like, I don't know, like what if he's just like saying that to be nice, and like what if he just doesn't really mean it, and like I have a lot of issues. Like what if I actually like let him into my life, and then he like doesn't, like he like hurts me somehow or something. But one day I actually did. I reached out to him, and I was having a really bad day because we were at work, and I was like having a horrible time, and I was like about to cry. And he was like, do you want to talk about it? And he said that a ton of times before, but for the first time I actually said yes. So we went to the office and we just talked about it, and it was crazy. He listened to me like no one really listened to me before up until that point in my life. And he was like, I want to be there for you, and like you can always call me no matter what time of day, and you can always reach out to me and I'll always be there for you. And like, he went to play basketball with me and it was amazing. He like, we didn't talk about anything, we just played basketball like exactly how I had pictured in my list, you know? And he did so many other things to me. Like multiple times I called him, like one time I called him because I was really upset about something, and he picked up the phone immediately, and he just like, we talked it out, and then he was like, where are you? Like, I want to make sure you're okay and that you're safe. And so he actually drove from wherever he was to come see me and make sure I was okay. And like, no one had ever done that for me before, and it was crazy, and it was so nice, and I felt so loved. And like, another one of the guys on my list was my older brother, who was always there for me growing up. And even though he's only a few years older than me, he was able to make me feel so safe and so loved so many times. Like, sometimes when my mom wasn't home, he would tuck us all in to our beds, and like, he was kind of clumsy because he was just like a teenage boy, but like, I appreciated it so much. Like, I loved it when he tucked me in. And sometimes he would like read us stories before bed, and he just did such a good job of doing something that like a dad should have done. And he really stepped up. Like, it wasn't his responsibility, he didn't have to do that, but he did it, and he did it with so much love, and I appreciated it so much. So I kept thinking, and I had 5 men who had done that for me, who had, like, I'm not their kid and they'll never actually be my dad, but they stepped up when nobody else did, and they made me feel safe and loved when nobody else was gonna do it, when they really didn't have to. So I came up with my list of 5 men, and it was crazy because like, yeah, I don't have a dad, and I kept thinking about my wedding day again. Like, yeah, I don't have a dad, but like, maybe I will walk down the aisle all by myself. But like, I know that I'll be able to look into the pews and see those 5, and I'll feel just as loved as anyone else. And maybe one of them will walk me down the aisle, maybe someone else, but I know there's people who would be willing to do it for me because they love me, and I'm just as loved as anyone else, you know? Life can suck. It really does. Like, even right now, coronavirus, chances are most of you are stuck in your homes and your parents won't let you out and you can't see your friends and you can't go do stuff, and it's really annoying. Sometimes life really sucks. I'm not denying that. I know it really does. But just because you've lost something doesn't mean that like you have nothing. Like, just because I don't have a dad doesn't mean that I don't have like father figures in my life, and it doesn't mean that like nobody loves me or that I'm not lovable, you know? And sometimes God has something different in mind than what you want. Because like, growing up, all I wanted was dad. Even now, I'm still not 100% over it. Like, I would still like one, but just because it's not what you want doesn't mean it's not good. Like, if I wasn't in the situation I'm in, those 5 people probably wouldn't have felt the need to step in, but because of everything, they did, and it was amazing, and I'm so grateful for them. And honestly, looking back, I wouldn't change anything if I could. So just because something's different, just because God has something different in mind, doesn't mean it's not just as good or even better. And it takes time. It really does. Like, I'm in college now and I'm still getting over it, but you can be so happy with what God has given you, with the circumstances you have, with the crosses you have to bear, with those little things in your heart that you maybe don't tell anyone about, or maybe you have but no one understands how much they hurt. It takes time to learn to live with those things, but one day, or even sometime soon, you'll learn to be so happy with those. You'll be so grateful for those things. Because sometimes when something's hard, it just means, I know it sounds so cliche, but like, but sometimes when you don't have something, it's because God has something better to give you. And I know it sounds so cliche and it's overused, but like, I promise you it can be true. And one day you can be so happy with what God has given you. So yeah, your journey and your life can be completely different from someone else's. Like, maybe maybe you have a dad and he's great, but there's like something else that you're missing in your life, or something else that's kind of left a hole in your heart. And just because God pursues us all differently doesn't mean that he's pursuing you less than he is me, or someone else more. It's different with everyone, but just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's there. Like maybe right now you hadn't thought about it and you can't really see how God's pursuing you, but I promise you he is. It took me a long time to find out that he was pursuing me in that way. I was just like, well, this is it, my life sucks, can't do anything about it. But it wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. And it took me so long to figure that out, but it's still true. And so many times I felt so abandoned and so unloved when that was such a lie. And it's so easy for us to feel like God has abandoned us, because sometimes it really does feel like that, but it's not true at all. I promise you it's not. Sometimes he's just subtle in the way he starts out doing things, but like he's putting something in your life right now that will eventually someday help you heal and realize that it was all like part of a plan, and it was all meant to be. I know it sounds so cheesy. Ugh. It was all meant to be, okay? In the end, if you want, you will end up so much closer to him, and you will be so happy. We're back. Happy hand washing, everybody. And do you want me to like stop? Sorry, I lost my train of thought and reeled out. Yeah. Am I at the end of the story? I guess. So this light is like low-key blinding me, so it's gonna take a second for me to see it. That sounds so cheesy. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.